Tuesday, June 21st edition of The Alex Jones Show. I'm Paul Joseph Watson. I will be with you for the first 30 minutes. Then Alex Jones will be hosting the show live, so be sure and stay tuned for that. Now, we're going to start by talking about violent, crazy left-wing extremists, because, of course, over the past 5 days, the Conservatives, the right, the pro-Brexit people in the United Kingdom have been blamed, have been lectured for the toxic and inflammatory atmosphere that they apparently created, which led to the murder of the Labour MP Jo Cox. Now, of course, the polls were showing that Vote Leave was pulling ahead. The momentum was with the pro-Brexit camp. As soon as this murder happened, that was reversed because they cashed in immediately. They blamed anyone who wanted to take back power from the unelected, corrupt bureaucrats in Brussels. They blamed them for this murder. They characterized them as dangerous right-wing extremists. Well, now, last night it emerged that during a Donald Trump rally, an illegal alien from the United Kingdom tried to grab the gun of a police officer and assassinate Donald Trump. Now, I've been warning about this for at least 3 or 4 months. In fact, I put out a video 3 months ago called The Assassination of Donald Trump, predicting this very thing, that dangerous left-wing violent rhetoric would lead to a crazy trying to actually attempt to assassinate Donald Trump. And exactly that happened on Saturday night. This is out of the American Mirror. Would-be Trump assassin, an illegal alien. If one illegal alien had his wish, he would have killed Donald Trump on Saturday. Michael Stephen Sanford appeared in a federal court in Las Vegas today, 2 days after he was arrested for allegedly trying to grab a police officer's gun with the intent to assassinate the presumptive Republican nominee for president. Now, bear in mind that his parents claim he wasn't political before this. It was over the course of the last 6 months to a year that he allegedly planned this assassination attempt. This wasn't just a mindless tweet on Twitter. This wasn't a social media post. This was an actual plan to assassinate Donald Trump. He said that he had schemed it for a year. He traveled down. He went to a firing range the day before to practice his shooting skills. Obviously, it was a poor attempt, but it was an actual assassination plot. So it remains to be seen what radicalized this individual to do this. His father said that he wasn't political, but he was radicalized over the last 12 months. He doesn't know by what. Well, I've got a pretty good clue. We're going to get more into it after the break, but just for starters, you know, Facebook, for months and months, hosting pages called I effing want to kill Donald Trump. Do you think that had anything to do with it? Do you think the hundreds, the thousands of tweets on a daily basis saying I'm going to kill Donald Trump, saying who's going to take one for the team and assassinate Donald Trump, do you think that had anything to do with it? Do you think the rap songs, the F Trump anthem, the F Donald Trump song, again, heralded by the music media as brave protest anthems, legitimized by the mainstream media, do you think that had anything to do with the radicalization of this individual? I would say that it had a massive amount to do with it. And again, this guy is a British citizen. He was there for 18 months illegally in the United States. For the last 6 months plus, for the last 8-9 months, in fact, he's been hearing this constant drumbeat of left-wing, violent, radical rhetoric about how Donald Trump is a Nazi, about how he's going to put, you know, Muslims in concentration camps, about how he's literally Hitler. They've been hearing this for months and months and months. They've seen the mainstream media legitimize violent threats against Donald Trump. They've seen the press legitimize, give a platform to the individual who rushed the stage and tried to tackle Trump back in March. That's what led to this crazy left-wing violent rhetoric, and it needs to be called out. We'll be back live on The Alex Jones Show. Stay right there. We are back live on The Alex Jones Show. It's Tuesday, June 17th edition. Alex will be live on the air at the bottom of the hour, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Michael Stephen Sanford. This is the illegal alien, the British citizen that was in the United States illegally, who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump during his event on Saturday. Sanford's only form of ID was the United Kingdom's driver's license, reports RT. His arraignment on Monday, it was revealed that he had overstayed his visa and was in the United States illegally. In a court filing against the British national, US Attorney Daniel Bogdan alleges Sanford had never fired a gun before until the day prior to the rally. According to police, he approached Las Vegas Police Department officer Emil Jacob and attempted to take his weapon and use it to shoot Trump. The court filing states he drove from California to Nevada because, quote, he finally felt confident about trying it. He remains in custody and has a court hearing July 5th. So obviously the left-wing press in America, left-wing press in the United Kingdom, the same media outlets that demonized conservatives for the death of Joe Cox, the pro-Remain Labour MP in the United Kingdom, who was murdered by somebody whose friends and neighbours said that he wasn't political. He suddenly apparently became political in recent months. Of course, they blame the right wing, they blame the conservatives for that, and yet this is not the only example of crazy left-wing violent rhetoric leading to potential bloodshed. So we've got this guy who tried to assassinate Trump, and then today it's revealed that Omar Mateen, the Orlando Pulse nightclub gunman, was not only a registered Democrat, he supported Hillary Clinton. This is out of the Washington Post. This is a conversation between Omar Mateen and his friend. They spoke to his friend. This is out of the article. Omar and I continued to have infrequent conversations over the next few years. I saw him at a dinner at his father's house in January. Of course, his father, the big Taliban fan, who the media treated as a credible source immediately after the attack when he said that it had nothing to do with Islam. The article goes on, we talked about the presidential election and debated our views of the candidates that were running. Again, this is a conversation between Omar Mateen and his friend. Quote, he liked Hillary Clinton. That's right. The gunman in the Orlando nightclub massacre was a big Hillary fan. He was a registered Democrat. Now, will Hillary Clinton be asked over and over again by the mainstream media over the next 3 to 4 weeks to disavow Omar Mateen? Remember when David Duke came out and endorsed Donald Trump, and Trump repeatedly had to address the question, even though he said from the very beginning he had nothing to do with him, didn't want his support. He was forced to disavow him over and over again because, of course, the press were trying to do guilt by association. So now we've got it on the record, according to one of his close friends, that Omar Mateen supported Hillary Clinton. He was a registered Democrat. Was he radicalized by some of this crazy left-wing violent rhetoric? So again, you know, will Hillary suspend her campaign out of respect for the Orlando victims? This is what happened in the United Kingdom. The Vote Leave campaign suspended all campaigning in the aftermath of the murder of this left-wing Labour MP. Of course, Vote Remain, the pro-EU opposition, said they were doing the same, suspending their campaign, except they didn't. They immediately went on the offensive and vociferously blamed conservatives who want to get out of the EU for this mental patient who was hooked up on psychotropic drugs for murdering this Labour MP. But again, Omar Mateen supported Hillary Clinton. Will Hillary suspend her campaign out of respect for the Orlando victims? Will she be asked to disavow her association, since he endorsed her, with Omar Mateen over and over again over the next few weeks? No. That's the answer. You won't hear it once. It's buried deep within this Washington Post article, and that's where it will remain, because the left is terrified of this narrative coming out. Oh, and by the way, you remember on the same day it was reported, when you had the Orlando attack, the very same day it was reported that an individual was caught with explosives, with guns in his vehicle on the way to a gay pride march. Now, this was first reported, it was first rumored that it was some kind of right-wing radical. And this one kind of flew under the radar as well. It turns out that that individual who was caught with the guns, with the explosives, presumably on the way to carry out some kind of massacre, was not a right-wing extremist. He was a Bernie Sanders supporter. This is out of gotnews.com. The would-be West Hollywood shooter is a gun-toting, weed-smoking, conspiracy-theorizing Bernie bro, gotnews.com has learned. He's not a Trump fan or a racist as far as we can tell. So again, you had that story come out. As soon as it became apparent that he wasn't a dangerous right-wing extremist, the story kind of disappeared. So now you've got three examples. You have the would-be Trump assassin, you have Omar Mateen, and you have this individual, James Wesley Howell, who was caught with the explosives, with the guns on the way to the gay pride parade. All three of them left-wingers. All three of them potentially radicalized by violent left-wing rhetoric. Will you hear the mainstream media even mention it? Never mind, tie it, weave it into their narrative. No. It's too toxic for them to even acknowledge this threat. Now, there's an article in Breitbart, which is really good, called "Did British MPs Radicalise the Man Who Tried to Murder Donald Trump?" This is Raheem Kassan. The very top of the British political establishment has sought to link the murder of Joe Cox MP with the Brexit campaign, arguing against logic and potentially in contempt of court that the politics of hate and a UKIP poster were somehow responsible. So by their logic, surely David Cameron, Jeremy Corbyn and their parliamentary colleagues will now take responsibility for the alleged attempted murder of Donald Trump by a British man. Now, remember the environment we've had for the past 6-8 months in Britain. Donald Trump's a Nazi. Donald Trump's literally Hitler. Donald Trump wants to put Mexicans and Muslims in camps. You had the petition signed by hundreds of thousands of people to block Donald Trump from entering the United Kingdom. Now, they created that narrative that Donald Trump was somehow this dangerous, violent, extremist, radical threat to democracy. So is it really any surprise that not only did we have the attendant violence at Donald Trump rallies, you know, people being attacked, spat on, punched in the face by violent left-wingers. Of course, that was first blamed on Donald Trump. And now we have individuals acting out based on this rhetoric, including the would-be assassin of Donald Trump. So in every single case, radicalized by violent left-wing rhetoric, but you won't see the mainstream media point it out because it completely demolishes their narrative. Now we have another story out of NBC. This just broke about 30 minutes ago. 3 arrested with multiple loaded guns, knives, body armor at Holland Tunnel on way to New York City. 3 people were arrested with multiple loaded guns, rifles, and ballistic vests at the Holland Tunnel Tuesday when police stopped them for driving with a cracked windshield. Authorities tell NBC4 New York 3 individuals, 2 men in their 50s and a woman in her 30s, who may be from Pennsylvania, were stopped on the New Jersey side of the tunnel around 8 a.m. So we wait to see more details on that. We don't know the identity. We don't know the motivation. But again, another incident in New York uncovered today as this climate of violent rhetoric escalates. Now, one of the top stories up on Infowars.com, moderate Muslim role model chopping heads off is the easiest solution. Of course, we featured the clip from Norway, where the Islamic speaker asks the Muslim crowd, hundreds of people, if they consider themselves to be moderate Muslims. They all do. And furthermore, if they consider the death penalty for homosexuality to be acceptable as ascribed by the Quran and Allah. They all put their hands up and agree. These are supposed moderate Muslims agreeing that homosexuality should be punishable by death. Well, another clip has been uncovered of a so-called moderate Muslim outlining the 5 ways in which homosexuals should be put to death under Islam. Here's the clip.
If there's homosexual men, the punishment is one of 5 things. 1, the easiest one may be, chop their head off. That's the easiest. 2nd, burn them to death. 3rd, throw them off a cliff.